Hey, and welcome back to another Fan Friday. This is the series where you, the fan at home, get to share your opinions with me in the comments section. And in the following week, I read your comments. There's going to be a lot of the comments on every single one of these videos, so I can't choose them all. However, I did try and choose a couple different people than I did. So the previous ones, some people commented, I chose their comment, and I commented again on this one. And I tried not to choose the same people, just to give some other new people a chance to have their comments read and interact and stuff. And there were some really good comments on this video, and I want to read some of them right now. So I have a question at the end of this video to ask you for the next Fan Friday. However, before I get there, we need to cover the question of this week, which is, who is the worst player in the NHL? And I'm going to start this out by firstly apologizing to you guys for not clarifying what I actually meant. And I could tell from the comments that things were going two different ways. Way number one was going the way where they really hated the player because maybe some of the dirty things they did. But if you looked at the way that they actually play in the point production, like Brad Marchand, they're actually a really good player. So that's not actually what I meant. But with that said, there were some really good comments about that, and I actually included them. The way that I intended this to go was, what player is actually overrated or like a terrible player and shouldn't be in the NHL based on their skill, based on their production, based on their contributions. That's kind of what I meant, and I do apologize for not clarifying that. But it's almost a happy accident because we got two answers going in different ways, and we can kind of read them both. So here we go. I picked 10 of your comments to read to my question, who's the worst player in the NHL? Let's get going. Okay, comment number one that I chose, and it got 7 likes. Brad Marchand is the worst player in the NHL to lick somebody. It's just weird. So, I mean, again, it doesn't really make sense, the question that I asked as far as who's the worst player in the league, but it does in the sense that what kind of player would lick another player twice? He licked someone twice. Not once, twice. How do you lick someone and think, oh wow, like tens of millions of people saw that. Should probably lick someone else too. What are you doing, Brad Marchand? Like, I understand why someone would choose Brad Marchand based on the licking incident. Let's move on. Hockey guy 66871 says, Tom Wilson is the worst player in the league. He is the dirtiest player in the league. He intentionally hits players in the head. I don't necessarily disagree. I've seen Tom Wilson do a lot of dirty things. However, Tom Wilson is a very good hockey player, in my opinion. He was crucial for Washington in the playoffs and just in the regular season games. He does a lot of grinding. He does a lot of playmaking. He can score. He's all around a pretty decent player. Unfortunately, he does get himself into trouble like Brad Marchand does. Now, with that said, Brad Marchand has been very good the past couple of years, and Tom Wilson has even slowed down his role a little bit. So I'm going to cut them both some slack in this video, but I mean, you're not wrong. He does have a bit of dirty history. Okay, Ethan says, this one's a long one. I'm going to try and get through this as best as I can. It's a little small on my screen, but okay, so Ethan says, Martin Jones, the backup goalie of the San Jose Sharks, in my opinion, is the worst player in the NHL. Martin Jones has only one good season with the Sharks, and that was the 2015-2016 season when the Sharks made it to the Stanley Cup final. Since then, he has fell off a cliff. Some examples in the 2009 playoffs when the Sharks played Vegas, except in Game 6 when he was outstanding. I remember that game, and he was very outstanding. He was awful. Letting in goals less than 20 seconds into the game. Although the Sharks won that series due to a very controversial call, you are correct. That playoff series was probably his worst. I agree. And going recently to the Washington game, yes, you're right, where he let in 2 goals in 35 seconds and then losing an OT to cost us the game. Although Washington had their goalie pulled for those 2 goals, he let in 2 quick ones. As of currently, Jones has a 3.19 goals against average and an 890 save percentage. I'm happy that the Sharks put him in a backup role as Arundel is in the starting position. And this is coming from a Sharks fan. Ethan, I respect that comment. The San Jose Sharks are my second favorite team. I feel very similar towards Martin Jones as you do. I was very critical of Martin Jones over the past 2 years. I really like what he did in that run to the Stanley Cup Finals. I thought it was really fantastic that year. But since then, he has really struggled and fallen off. So I'm with you there. I'm with you on this one. When they signed him a couple of years ago, I thought that contract was going to come back and bite them in the butt. And I mean, it's not a terrible contract. It's not a carry price contract, but still, he is underperforming in my opinion. So Ethan, I agree with you. Next up, Garrett says, PK Subban. He is a diver, complaining to the refs, liability for his team, a cancer in the dressing room, wants to be traded out of New Jersey already, so his heart and soul isn't in the team. In the past couple of games, as I'm filming this, PK Subban has actually not been too bad, but generally he has been a garbage player for the Devils. He has bounced around a little bit from Montreal to Nashville, now to the Devils, and now there's rumors of him going elsewhere or him wanting to get out of the Devils. He's like Taylor Hall. He's played for a bunch of teams, and no one kind of really wants him. He is kind of the cancer in the dressing room. I've heard that from multiple sources. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't think he's the worst player in the NHL as far as skill. I think he's very talented, but he is a huge liability, so you're absolutely right there. It kind of feels like nobody wants him, so I mean, maybe you kind of have to think of that he might be the worst player in the NHL based on that, based on his inconsistencies, based on the cancer in the dressing room. It's tough to say that. I mean, he is considered a superstar, and he's getting paid superstar dollars, so that's tough. All right, next up. James Phillips says, worst player in the league, huh? Taking it two ways. So this goes back. James, I apologize. I kind of explained it already, but let's see what you have to say. In terms of really poor performance for the wage that they are being paid, Louis Eriksson and PK Subban, again, are up there for me. Criminally overpaid for the level they have been at for the last year or more. 100% right. Louis Eriksson, how long has it been where that contract or he in general has just been like, oh, you dirt. Like, not even performing even close. I would say he is meeting 15% of expectations. It's bad. And also you mentioned PK Subban, so we already kind of talked about him. You continue to say, in terms of out bad players, I think Tobias Reeder has to be up there. He's had a stinker for the last few seasons, and I'm genuinely so shocked that Chris Stewart is an NHL player once more. That's correct. Chris Stewart left and he went to go to the EIHL, and now he's back. He kind of got another tryout, so it is a bit weird to see Chris Stewart back in the NHL. Although I personally really, really like Chris Stewart as a person. He's one of my favorite hockey people ever. When he signed in Nottingham last season, he looked past it. A bit sluggish and sloppy when I got to see him play in person. Truly shocked that the NHL side would take him. You're not wrong. Malcolm says, definitely Milan Lucic, because he doesn't score and he hurts his team with his stupid contract. A close second for me is Andrew Cogliano. He was known for his speed, but now he is 32 and isn't getting better, and he was a bad third liner at best, so there are my picks. I actually agree with both of these, specifically Milan Lucic. That contract is terrible. When they signed that contract, I remember talking about it and thinking that was such a mistake. And I can remember everyone else saying, that's a mistake. It wasn't just me, it was everyone. So I totally understand your pick there. Andrew Cogliano, the Iron Man, who played so many games without missing one. And I think then he got suspended for slashing a ref or something off a face-off. And he ended his Iron Man streak just because he got suspended. He wasn't even injured or hurt. So he has declined. You're right. He definitely has declined. He was a defining name. And now he's just kind of someone, if that makes sense. Next, Tampa Bay fan says, every NHL player is better than those that didn't make it to the league. There is no worst. I was really hoping someone would say something along the lines of this, because that's really important. Think about all the amazing leagues under the NHL, the QMJHL, OHL, AHL, WHL. If you look across into the Finnish Liga and the SHL in Sweden, the EIHL, there's so many incredible leagues around the world and amazing players that if we had there's almost 32 teams. We'll say that there's 32 NHL teams. If we had another 32 teams, you could fill those 32 teams with, I think, pretty decently quality players. I really like this comment because he's right. He or she, I don't know what you are. He or she is extremely right here. You could say that every NHL player is amazing or incredibly talented, and there is no worse because they are in the NHL, because it's so difficult to get to the NHL. So I like this answer. Next up, Liz says, Cody Eakin. This may draw some disagreement, but I fully believe it. He adds nothing to the team, and he's actually dragging everybody down right now. While he's out, the Golden Knights are winning games. While he's playing, it hasn't been great. He has had moments here and there where he has looked decent, and the last season there was some hope for him, but he is my pick. Alternatively, I would also nominate Louis Eriksson, yes, but he's kind of the low-hanging fruit. Absolutely. When I first read this, I thought, I'm surprised someone actually noticed that Cody Eakin was falling off the radar. He's not one of those names. He's not a typical superstar that gets a lot of spotlight on him and gets a lot of criticism regularly. So Liz, good on you for fine-tuning your answer here and picking Cody Eakin, and I actually agree with it. I remember watching the playoffs. I can't remember if it was the last year or the previous year, and Cody Eakin was being completely reamed out by the play-by-play guy. I can't remember who it was, but he just reamed him out. It was awesome, and he was very well deserved. He was doing stupid stuff on the ice, and it seems like he takes a lot of ridiculous penalties in the defensive end, in the offensive end, just a lot of unneeded penalties. I genuinely remember watching Vegas and watching, even when he played for Dallas, he just taking ridiculous penalties and it pissing me off. So yeah, I'm with you on this one. Terrell95 Secto says, Oscar Sundqvist of the St. Louis Blues. Number 1, dirty plays. I think that's going to be common on this list. Number 2, faceoff percentage. Career 43%. Supposed to be a center, but mostly played on the wing because of this. Number 3, plus minus. Although I don't completely love this stat, he has never ended a season in the plus. Currently on pace to prove that one wrong, but only halfway. 4, points per game. At a career average of .31 points per game regular season, that feels low for a forward that spent some time on a top 6 line. Completely right. I was actually wondering if someone would have picked Oscar Sundqvist. If you look at him statistically, he has underperformed. Absolutely. I remember him scoring one big goal in the playoffs. I can't remember what series it was, but he scored a big, really important goal, and he got so much praise for it. And again, kind of like the Cody Eakin thing, it wasn't a play-by-play guy. It wasn't the guy between the benches. It was someone in between the periods who was talking and analyzing and saying, this was a huge goal by Sundqvist because if you look at his regular play and stuff, he underperforms all the time. I remember that. So good job picking Oscar Sundqvist here. The last one I have is from Andrew. And he says, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but the worst player these days are mostly the old school enforcers, aka goons. Example, Robert Bortuzzo. There is no need to be on the ice for the sole purpose of being overly aggressive at times when you shouldn't. What Robert did back in November 2019 to Victor Arvidsson on the Nashville was uncalled for. Only getting a 4-game suspension is just a slap on the wrist, while Victor was out of the lineup for about a month after getting cross-checked over and over again in an unprotected part of his spine. Could have been a lot worse. Enforcers very rarely put any points or create plays. They are a waste of space on the roster, in my opinion. I understand that there are times when you need to stick up for your teammates, but there shouldn't be specific positions on a team to just do that and only that. That's a very good point, Andrew. Very good comment. The NHL is evolving. We're changing. We don't have specific goons like the George Peroses and the Colton Orrs and the Ty Domies and the Bob Proberts, the guys who would just go out there and kind of, that was the guy. If there was going to be a fight that night, those names were probably the guys that were probably going to chuck some knuckles. Donner Bashir is another one. Like there aren't really the true enforcer that there used to be. Now there's still some guys hanging around and still trying to do that role a little bit. Players like Robert Bortuzzo, you're right, and some other players as well. But I think the NHL's improved a lot in that aspect, where we've kind of gotten rid of that maybe toxic role. But I'm going to be honest, there are situations where I've seen on the ice where there's just not enough policing, and I personally kind of wished that there was a goon out there or an enforcer to come in and say, listen, you can't do that to this person, or you just you just injured our person, he was stretchered off the ice, now you're going to pay in the next shift, so you better look out. You don't really see that anymore, which is unfortunate. Now you just see a big clean hit happens, and then a bunch of people start fighting because of this clean hit. I don't like the way that the NHL has evolved, but at the same time, you're right. The enforcers, that role has gone away, and it's not really totally needed. There needs to, for me, I wish there was a happy medium, and we're not quite there yet, in my opinion. But anyways, really good comments this week, guys. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun going through those, and there was even some that I really wanted to choose. But just I wanted to keep this a little bit shorter than the last one because I have a lot of work to do. While you're watching this, I'm actually traveling. I'm in, this is Friday. I'm filming this on a Tuesday night. You're watching on a Friday, so by the time you watch this, I will be at or near Utica, New York State. So I'm filming and doing a lot of work now to schedule all these videos basically and upload them. So I wanted to keep this one a little bit shorter, but I guess I'm making it longer by rambling like an idiot right now. So you're probably wondering what the question for next week is, or the question for this week, answers for next week. I hope you can play along here and leave your answer down below to the question I'm just about to ask. I'd really love it if you could contribute, and I'd really like to know generally what you guys think. So here's my question for this week, or for next week. Who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup this year, and why? I believe I asked this question in a previous Fan Friday 2.5 or so years ago, but I want to ask it again because I remember going back to that Fan Friday, and I think I even did a recap video going back and looking at some of the answers and saying, oh wow, that person was actually right, because we did the video after someone won the Stanley Cup. This person picked this team halfway through the season, and they were right, and their answers were valid. And so I kind of want to do that again. I want you to tell me who you think is going to win the Stanley Cup this year and why, and then I'll make a follow-up video looking back at your answers and see how many people got it right. We're at kind of the halfway point of the season, a little bit more than the halfway point of the season. But if you think back to last year and you look at St. Louis, they were so far down. If I had done this a year ago, I bet you no one would have picked St. Louis. So I'm curious to see if anyone will pick some of those bottom feeder teams like a New Jersey, or maybe like a bubble team like Florida or something. Very curious of your answers. Can't wait to read them. Can't wait to share them with the rest of you in video form next week. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you, the fan at home. If you could subscribe down below, that would be awesome. And make sure you go check out the second channel too. More post to post. I uploaded a video earlier this week ranking the mascots. I'm doing some GeoGuessr, some trivia, and just talking some hockey over there as well. So thanks guys for your support. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next Fan Friday. Adios.